This is absolutely heartbreaking, and if you're not in tears over the most emotional and most unexpected reunion in wrestling history, then you clearly missed Jon Moxley walking into Seth Rollins' hospital room after the Visionary's brutal betrayal to have the most raw and most honest conversation these former Shield brothers have had in years. If you think this is just another wrestling angle, you're completely wrong, because what I'm about to expose proves that this hospital visit wasn't scripted by WWE Creative, that the conversation between Mox and Seth addressed real pain and real regrets from their complicated history, and that what started as a mercy visit might actually be the foundation for the most powerful alliance wrestling has seen since the Shield's original run. Comment right now if you think Jon Moxley showing up for Seth Rollins in his darkest hour proves that true brotherhood never dies, no matter how much time passes or how many companies separate you, because the image of Mox sitting beside Seth's hospital bed while Seth recovered from the Visionary's attack represents forgiveness, redemption, and the kind of genuine human connection that transcends wrestling business. This isn't about ratings or storylines, this is about two men who've been through hell together finally acknowledging that their bond is stronger than their pride, and the implications of Moxley potentially crossing company lines to stand with his brother could change the entire wrestling landscape. Let me break down exactly what happened, because every single detail of this hospital visit was loaded with emotion and significance that most people are completely missing in their analysis. After the Visionary's brutal betrayal of Seth Rollins on Raw, where they systematically beat him down with Brock Lesnar's help and left him broken both physically and emotionally, Seth was transported to a local medical facility for evaluation and treatment of multiple injuries, including broken ribs, a concussion, and severe contusions across his entire body. Seth was alone in his hospital room, sedated for pain management, dealing not just with physical injuries but with the crushing emotional weight of having been betrayed by the faction he built, by the people he trusted most. Roman had already reached out publicly with his offer of alliance, but Seth hadn't responded yet because he was too hurt, too confused, too broken to make any decisions about his future. That's when Jon Moxley walked through that hospital room door. Not Dean Ambrose in WWE gear making a corporate-approved appearance, Jon Moxley, the AEW wrestler, the man who built a career and an identity completely separate from WWE, somehow getting access to Seth's room for a private conversation that wasn't supposed to be filmed, wasn't supposed to be part of any storyline, wasn't supposed to be anything except two old friends reconnecting. Here's a trivia question for Shield fans: in what year did Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, leave WWE to pursue opportunities elsewhere? Drop your answer in the comments. The fact that this visit happened at all is stunning when you consider the logistics and politics involved. Jon Moxley is under contract with AEW, WWE's primary competitor. For him to show up at a WWE event-adjacent location to visit Seth suggests either an unprecedented level of cooperation between companies or Moxley simply not caring about corporate politics when his brother needed him. Either explanation is fascinating and potentially industry-changing. According to sources who were present, medical staff and security who witnessed parts of the interaction, the first thing Moxley said when he entered Seth's room was simple but powerful: "Hey brother, I heard what happened. Thought you might need someone who actually gives a shit about you rather than what you can do for their business." The acknowledgement that Mox came purely out of concern for Seth as a person rather than as a wrestling performer set the tone for everything that followed. Seth, still groggy from medication but conscious enough to recognize his visitor, reportedly had tears in his eyes immediately. "Mox? What are you? How did you?" Seth's confusion was understandable. The last time these two had a genuine conversation was years ago before Mox left WWE, and their relationship had been complicated even then by the history of Shield's breakup and the paths their careers had taken. Drop a comment: does Jon Moxley visiting Seth Rollins in the hospital prove that the Shield's bond was real and transcends wrestling business? Let me know your take. Moxley pulled up a chair next to Seth's bed, and what followed was a conversation that witnesses described as brutally honest, emotionally raw, and completely unlike anything you'd see in a scripted wrestling segment. These weren't characters talking, these were Jonathan Good and Colby Lopez, two men who'd been through wars together, addressing years of unresolved issues and unspoken pain. "I should have been there," Moxley reportedly said. "When you were dealing with your own betrayals, your own struggles, I should have been there. I was so focused on my own shit, on building my own thing away from WWE, that I forgot that brotherhood isn't supposed to have geographic boundaries or contractual limitations. That's on me, and I'm sorry." The apology from Moxley, acknowledging that he'd let distance and different career paths damage their relationship, was apparently the moment Seth fully broke down. Seth, who'd been trying to maintain composure, started crying openly, releasing years of suppressed emotion about how alone he'd felt, how much he'd missed having his Shield brothers in his life, how the weight of carrying WWE as a top star without that support system had been crushing him. Seth's response, according to sources, was equally emotional: "I destroyed the Shield, Mox. I'm the one who betrayed you and Roman. I'm the one who broke up the best thing any of us ever had because I was selfish and ambitious and stupid. You don't owe me anything. You shouldn't even be here. Why are you here?" Quick question: what was the Shield's win-loss record during their original undefeated streak? Show me you know your Shield dominance history. Moxley's answer to that question represents the heart of why this visit matters so much: "Because you're my brother. Not my tag team partner, not my faction mate, not my coworker, my brother. And brothers show up when brothers are hurting, even if there's complicated history, even if years have passed, even if showing up is inconvenient or politically complicated. That's what brotherhood means. The conversation apparently lasted over an hour, with both men addressing the Shield's breakup, their individual journey since then, the betrayals they'd each experienced, the lessons they'd learned, and, most importantly, their regrets about letting their relationship deteriorate to the point where they hadn't had a genuine conversation in years. Moxley shared his perspective on leaving WWE, on building his career in AEW and other promotions, on finding creative fulfillment and personal happiness outside the WWE system. But he also acknowledged that leaving meant losing daily contact with people who'd been like family, and that success in his career didn't fill the hole left by those lost relationships. Seth shared his own struggles, the pressure of being a top WWE star, the isolation that comes with main event status, the difficulty of maintaining genuine relationships when everyone wants something from you, and the crushing betrayal of having the Visionaries turn on him just like he'd turned on the Shield years ago. The irony of Seth experiencing his own medicine wasn't lost on either man. Tell me in the comments, should Jon Moxley face consequences from AEW for visiting Seth Rollins WWE in the hospital, or should companies respect that human relationships transcend business? What's right? The conversation also addressed Roman, with both men acknowledging that their third brother was going through his own struggles. Moxley asked Seth about Roman's public offer to team up, and Seth admitted he didn't know what to do. Accepting Roman's help felt like admitting weakness, but rejecting it meant facing his enemies alone. Moxley's advice was characteristically direct: pride is what destroyed the Shield the first time. Don't let it destroy your chance to have your brothers back. According to sources, Moxley also made it clear that while he couldn't officially get involved in WWE storylines due to his AEW commitments, he would always be there for Seth as a friend and as a brother in whatever ways he could be. The distinction between professional wrestling and personal relationship was important. Mox wasn't offering to jump companies or violate contracts, but he was making it clear that their friendship existed independent of business considerations. The visit ended with what witnesses described as a genuinely emotional embrace: two men who'd been through everything together, who'd hurt each other and been hurt, who'd gone separate ways and built separate lives, reconnecting on a human level that transcended all the business and politics that had separated them. Moxley reportedly told Seth, "You're not alone. You've never been alone. Roman and I, we're always going to be your brothers, even when we're not physically there. Remember that when you're making decisions about what comes next." What's your prediction? Will Jon Moxley's hospital visit lead to him eventually appearing in WWE to help Seth and Roman, or will this remain a personal gesture separate from business? Give me your forecast. As Moxley was leaving, he apparently stopped at the door and said one more thing that is Seth and everyone who heard about it thinking: the Shield broke up once because of betrayal and ambition. If it comes back together, it should be because of brotherhood and love. Don't let anyone, not WWE, not AEW, not fans, not me, not Roman, pressure you into something you don't want. But if you do want to reconnect with Roman, if you do want to rebuild what we had, then do it for the right reasons. Do it because brotherhood matters more than pride. The wisdom in Moxley's words, encouraging Seth to make decisions based on genuine feelings rather than external pressure or strategic considerations, reflects the growth and maturity all three Shield members have experienced over the years. They're not the young, hungry kids they were during the Shield's original run. They're grown men with families, with perspective, with understanding that relationships are more valuable than championships or main event spots. The news of Moxley's visit leaked to wrestling media within hours despite attempts to keep it private, and the reaction from the wrestling community has been overwhelming. Fans are crying over the humanity and genuine emotion of the story. Wrestlers from all companies are expressing respect for Moxley prioritizing friendship over business politics. Even executives from WWE and AEW have remained notably quiet about the visit, perhaps recognizing that trying to discipline or criticize it would make them look heartless. The implications for potential future collaborations between WWE and AEW are fascinating. If Moxley can visit Seth in a hospital and the companies don't create problems about it, what else might be possible? Could we see more talent movement or cooperation between the companies? Could the Shield actually reunite across company lines for special appearances? The possibilities that this visit opens up are enormous if companies are willing to be flexible. Here's a strategic question: if the Shield wanted to reunite for one final match, should WWE and AEW cooperate to make it happen, or would that set a precedent that's bad for business? What's your take? The impact on Seth's recovery and mindset has been notable according to sources close to him. After Moxley's visit, Seth apparently had more energy, better spirits, and renewed determination to not just recover physically but to address the emotional and professional challenges he's facing. Having Mox's support and perspective reminded Seth that he's more than his current circumstances, that he's survived worse, and that he has people who care about him independent of his wrestling success. Seth's decision about Roman's offer may have been influenced by Moxley's visit as well. The encouragement to prioritize genuine brotherhood over pride or strategic considerations likely resonated with Seth and made him more open to the idea of reconciling with Roman despite their complicated history. If Seth and Roman do team up, Moxley's hospital visit might be remembered as the moment that made it possible. The social media reaction has been beautiful and restorative in a way that wrestling internet culture rarely is. Instead of cynicism, insider speculation, or corporate criticism, fans are simply appreciating a genuine human moment between two people who care about each other. The photos that did leak, apparently taken by hospital staff and shared without permission, show Mox and Seth in a genuine embrace, both clearly emotional, and those images have become iconic representations of what brotherhood looks like. The merchandise opportunities, while it might seem crass to mention, are significant. The Shield's legacy continues to generate revenue for WWE through various products, and Moxley's visit reignites interest in that era and those relationships. Fans want to celebrate and support what this visit represents, and merchandise is one way they can do that tangibly. Tell me your honest opinion, should moments like Moxley's hospital visit remain private, or is sharing them valuable for showing the human side of wrestling and these performers? Where's the line? The long-term implications for all three Shield members' careers and legacies are profound. This visit, combined with Roman's public offer to Seth, suggests that all three men have reached a point in their lives and careers where legacy matters more than current success. They understand that how their story ends will define how they're remembered, and ending with reconciliation and brotherhood restored is more valuable than any individual accomplishment. The potential for future Shield reunions, whether through WWE/AEW cooperation, through special appearances, or through all three men eventually being in the same company, has been reignited by this hospital visit. Fans who'd given up hope of ever seeing genuine Shield brotherhood again now have hope that these three men have found their way back to each other on a personal level, which is the foundation necessary for any professional reunion. The lesson about human connection transcending business interests is powerful and extends beyond just these three men. Wrestling is ultimately about people, the performers who sacrifice their bodies and their time, the fans who invest emotionally and financially, the relationships that form and evolve over years of shared experiences. Moxley's visit reminded everyone that at the core of all the business machinations and corporate interests are human beings with feelings, with needs for connection, with the capacity for forgiveness and growth. One final question: if Jon Moxley, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns all eventually end up in the same company, should their Shield reunion be the main event of WrestleMania? What would be the perfect stage? The media coverage of this visit has been universally positive, with even outlets that typically focus on negativity or controversy acknowledging the beauty and significance of what happened. This is a good news story in an industry that often generates drama and division, and the wrestling community has embraced it as such. Now I want to hear from you, the Wrestling Newsletter family. Tell me in the comments, did Jon Moxley's hospital visit make you emotional? Should AEW and WWE cooperate more to allow personal connections? Will this lead to an eventual Shield reunion? Is brotherhood more important than company loyalty? Should Seth accept Roman's offer after Mox's encouragement? Is this the most heartwarming wrestling story of the year? Smash that like button if Jon Moxley's visit to Seth Rollins restored your faith in genuine human connection in wrestling. Destroy that like button if you think brotherhood should always transcend business interests. We need maximum engagement. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter because we're covering the human stories behind wrestling that remind us why we fell in love with this business. Share this video with every wrestling fan because Jon Moxley visiting Seth Rollins in the hospital is the most beautiful and most meaningful moment in wrestling this year. Brotherhood is eternal. Distance is temporary. Business is just business. But the bonds formed through shared struggle and sacrifice? Those are forever. Jon Moxley proved that by showing up when Seth needed him most. And the Shield's legacy is being rebuilt one genuine human moment at a time. Believe in brotherhood.